विद्या मैम यहाँ पे विद्या मैम यहाँ पे मैम
table, take us through discussion. Joyce and Gupta.
अरे मला ॲक्च्युली खरं बोलतो मी हे सीन पहिला सांगायचं तरी मला काय लावून ते दिले असतील लगेच.
Soon to be a major motion picture.
Congratulations, Piyush. You know, Joy, I read a lot of Ken Follett, so that is crime fiction, right? And I was obsessed. Anytime we were traveling, I would pick up a Ken Follett because then I wouldn't need to sleep until I finished the book. I would just keep reading. So Ken Follett was one of my favorites. I've read some others, but they've not stuck for some reason or the other. And then I think over the years, I've begun to enjoy reading, what we call thriller scripts, which is basically crime fiction. And that's how I met Piyush also. And he brought a script to me that I thought was fabulous. Let's see what happens with that. But and then he told me about this book. I said, I'd love to read it. So he sent me 3 chapters. And I think that's very unfair. Because he sent me 3 chapters and I was dying to know what's happening next.
I just wanted to keep her in suspense.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? I'll come to the launch if I have to. But I want to know what's happening. So I think he was just forced to invite me. No, I'm kidding. And then he asked me if I'd launch it, and that's how I'm here. But yeah, so I think my relationship or my liking for crime fiction is slowly growing.
I mean, you starred in one of the rare suspense thriller in popular cinema, when we really look at Ittifaq way back, which could qualify as a suspense thriller. We had a Jewel Thief much before that. We had a Kahani. They've been very few and far between, They often say in Indian cinema that when it comes to suspense thrillers, a crime fiction, they want to reveal the identity of the villain earlier on. Otherwise, the audience doesn't have the patience for that kind of suspense. This thing. What's your take on that?
I think when the villain isn't revealed very early, that has its own charm also. For example, I can only think of Sholay, where Gabbar, it's not a crime thriller, but I'm just saying his entry happens much later in the film, but the legend of Gabbar grabs you much before you see Gabbar. So that's one way of doing it. But I think for example, in this book, I'm enjoying getting into the head of the serial killer. Because we all want to believe that criminals, people who are, deviant personalities, that, there is some kind of reason for the way they've turned out. So, in a sense, I'm very grateful that he's first introduced us to that, and then he'll take us into the crimes of this guy.
Piyush, I finished the book in close to, 7 hours I finished the book. Yeah,
because he's in Bombay, you were in Calcutta.
7 hours. Yesterday,
I gave it to him only yesterday.
The book, and I couldn't put it down, frankly. It was riveting, but it was very dark. Very dark and sometimes mercilessly morbid. Where does that come from? I mean, looking at you, I know it doesn't reflect in your personality.
I don't want my wife to say anything. Please keep quiet.
So when you write something like this, where do you borrow from? Is it pure imagination? Is it fascination for crime and dark edges of human personality? or is it because you do feel that this is something that not very many people are attempting, so you feel compelled to go towards that?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think everybody has a dark side. You know, everybody's got a dark side, and I think my dark side is on steroids. But because you know, the minute I start tapping into it, all this stuff happens, and these stories come in my head. I don't know. It's just I think it's Mumbai or something. I grew up out here. Maybe it was. I just don't know where it comes from. But I just focus and I start thinking about these deadly stories. And I don't know. I always look at some crazy aspect of things like on the road. What if a car came and blew up right in front of me? What would happen? So the what if of life is the dark what ifs of life is always a question, and from these arrive my stories. And I just want to tell you my stories. About you asked about the who done it. I like to do how catch him. So I always reveal my character right in the beginning, and then I take you on this journey of how you catch or resolve or kind of bring that story to an end. So I involve you in the idea of that person, and in this case also I wanted to kind of, like you said, get you into the mind of the serial killer, and then take you along, and since you've read the book, you have a bit of an idea of how I've done it.
I was quite fascinated by the form that you picked up in this book. You wrote it like your antagonist in this book writes it like a diary. But the diary she's writing, the information and the knowledge that she's putting, she's piecing together from the diary of the other antagonist. I call both of them antagonists because both have a history. Yeah? So it's like a diary within a diary. You remember Wuthering Heights, there was a free person, this thing. So you went into that particular form, which was quite interesting because it at the same time gives an objectivity to the way you're learning. So why choose this form?
So you know what, like with the, even in Kahani, it was, you all did the same thing. Basically, the idea is to flip the character, sometimes you look at the character as a positive light, and suddenly you start looking at the character in the end, like in Kahani, the whole understanding of everything changes. So my thing is that I keep doing that throughout my book. Like, you don't know who is the antagonist and who's the protagonist. Even though one person might be a police person, the other person might be a serial killer, you don't know who's the good person, who's the bad person till it all gets resolved, and that's my idea, because that's what life is all about, Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're bad. Police people are good, police people are bad. Criminals are good, criminals are bad. That's how I keep it,
in this book, for example, both the characters are fated to follow a certain direction. There are certain circumstances which are heaped on them, and they take a certain direction. But one person is redeemable because she has guilt, whereas the other person doesn't suffer from guilt, and therefore seems like not redeemable.
Yeah, but at the end, so that you'll have to read the book to get the answer to that. I don't want to answer that, but Vidya, what he's saying is that there's the character of the police lady who actually, Maithili Prasad, who actually looks very much like you. So I'm just giving you a hint. Okay, she behaves also very much like you. You could be her. Hint. No. So there is this the idea of a police woman who has a dark past. I think that to me fascinated me the most. And then I looked at the dark man and I said, who is the darker one of them all? Is the policewoman the darker person, or is the serial killer the darker person? So that's the question that I keep, throwing at the reader. And in the end, perhaps I answer it. I don't know whether I answer it or not. It depends on the reader, perspective of the reader.
I must add there that when I read it, I was imagining a film playing out. So now that you've suggested this, maybe we should all take the cue and do something about it.
Yes.
I know it's a mere coincidence that for the first time I'm playing a cop in a film called Teen, which I'm shooting for in Kolkata. When Piyush called me with regard to the book, and then when I read it, I knew about Maithili Prasad, who's also a cop, and I said, everything's just falling into place.
So, you know, like how the heroes they play cops in many movies, even the heroines can do that. It's allowed.
Even the lady of the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Inspector Vijay, Amitabh Bachchan, he played.
Vidya, I was just thinking that, I mean, Piyush has thrown you enough hints to be part of his crime fiction turned into cinema. But where do you think we fail when it comes to not digging into enough fiction or literature that is there in our country in order to create better cinema? Why do we have directors creating their own stories or borrowing ideas from there, where we actually have so many organic and
Yeah, we have,
over here?
you know, such a legacy of literary works that we must tap into. But I do think increasingly people are filming books, novels. So, but I don't know why it hasn't caught on as a trend. I would think it's a much easier route to take than actually put in the effort yourself to write a story. But it's interesting to know that a lot of book rights are now being bought, and people are, yeah. So I think it's a good time now.
No, it's true. Like I have my friends Ravi Subramaniam, Mahendra Jakar. Their books have been bought. Their rights have been bought for movies. Mine too. One of my books. So yeah, that's a trend that is happening. People are sort of moving. I have a lot of writer friends. Sulekha is there. Rekha. Both they are like creating such great kind of movies. So thank you very much for coming here anyway.
No, I also think a lot of our, people don't know how to adapt a lot of our classical literary works. That's most often we've ended up making period films around those classics, based on those classics. Contemporary literature is only now being delved into.
It's a pity because we have the stories
Yeah.
and better written.
And a
made
lot of
films.
films that have been based on books have been extremely successful.
Yeah, your first major
Parinita,
feature,
of course.
that was adapted
Yeah.
from a book. Rekha's there, right there. So adapting books is kind of So, how's your experience with that? You must have read the book and and the script.
I actually read a translated version of Parinita before I read the script. Or rather, I read the script first and then I read the translated version. And it's interesting because what they did is, even though we were making it as a period film, they adapted it to or within a certain period. So that defined a lot of goings on in the film, which I think was very interesting. Otherwise, I haven't really. I've read a couple of, for example, I read what is it? The Chetan Bhagat book. 5 Point Someone.
One night in 5 Point Someone.
Yeah.
Two
Five
mistakes
point,
of my
no,
3
5
lives.
Point Someone before it got made into a book. So
I'm just kidding.
So that's the only experience as far as reading a book and then seeing it translate into script.
Now this is a serious question, Piyush. When I read the book, I found that from your humanist point of view, you would hate that character. But when you're playing it, would you get emotionally sucked into it and start subjectively justifying it, or would you still retain your objectivity as a human or an actor?
I think, I can comfortably say that it's only now that I'm actually willing, maybe I'm ready to delve into my dark side as an actor. So far, if there were scripts where there were characters I was uncomfortable with, which were inherently dark, I would just shy away from them. But something, obviously, I guess it's called growth and evolution, that I now feel ready to delve into that side of my personality because I know it exists there. When I'm playing the character, I'm not sure I require that objectivity. I haven't played that kind of dark character so far, so I don't know how, I'll really work within that. But having said that, with every other character, when I'm when I'm really playing a character, I'm really invested in her, at that time I really believe in everything that she does. So I lack objectivity at that time, which I think is fine.
That's the hallmark of a good
As,
good
lo-
actor.
as long as when I come back home, I know that, if I'm playing a serial killer, I'm not going to. Yeah.
No method in that.
No. Thankfully, hopefully.
Piyush, in this particular
या नहीं की कोई सेलिब्रेशन भी है शायद थोड़े से
अरे वाह, आपको याद है।
कि नहीं याद है
पर मैं यहाँ नहीं रहूँगी सेलिब्रेशन के लिए, बैंगलोर में रहूँगी मैं उस दिन। किसी काम के सिलसिले में ही जा रही हूँ बैंगलोर, पर ब्रेक मिला क्योंकि कुछ और काम था, एड फिल्म्स की शूट थी, तो मैंने पहले ही शुजॉय से कह दिया था कि कुछ दिन मुझे बीच में चाहिए, इसीलिए मैं आई हूँ। और आई तो ये मौका मिला क्योंकि जैसे मैंने बताया कि मैंने फर्स्ट 3 चैप्टर्स पढ़े राक्षस के, और मुझे जानना था कि आगे क्या होता है, तो मैं आ गई।
ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दैट। उसके अलावा 3 अमित जी, सुजय घोष और आप, कहानी फिर से दोहराई जाएगी
और नवाज, ये कहानी नहीं है पर ऑफ कोर्स 3 की कहानी बहुत अलग है, और मज़ा आ रहा है। फिर से कोलकाता में मैं शूटिंग कर रही हूँ, और बहुत सारे लोग टीम में वही हैं जो कहानी पर भी काम कर चुके हैं, तो मज़ा आ रहा है। और सुजॉय के साथ तो हमेशा मज़ा आता है, मिस्टर बच्चन है, नवाज है, आई एक्चुअली लव शूटिंग देयर।
ओके, कुछ अगर बता सके अपने किरदार के, टू अर्ली टू टॉक अबाउट बट स्टिल और क्या आप मानती हैं
ये-
कोलकाता दुर्गा माँ वो सब लकी है आपके लिए?
वो सब मुझे नहीं पता, फिल्म अगर अच्छी होती है तो खुद ब खुद लकी बन जाती है, पर मेरे ख्याल से हम बस अच्छी फिल्म बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, और फिलहाल बहुत मज़ा आ रहा है काम के वक्त। मैं एक कॉप प्ले कर रही हूँ, और उसके अलावा मैं कुछ और नहीं बता पाऊँगी, पर ये एक स्पेशल अपीयरेंस है जो मैं कर रही हूँ फिल्म में। मैंने, but I was excited about doing it because it's It's a fabulous script. It's a chance to shoot again in Kolkata, Mr. Bachchan और नवाज के साथ और शुजॉय के साथ फिर से तो मैं इतने अच्छे लेखक हैं, मुझे लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। मैं तो यही उम्मीद करती हूँ कि वो मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छे स्क्रिप्ट्स लिखें जिसे मैं इंटरेस्टिंग किरदार लिखे जिन्हें मैं निभा पाऊँ, पर मैं लिख नहीं सकती।
ओके आप क्या ये जो कॉप आप प्ले कर रही हैं जो अमूमन हम देखते हैं कमर्शियल सिनेमा में जिस तरह का होता है दबंग
वो सब नहीं बताऊंगी मैं।
थैंक यू सर। ये पकड़ यार दे दो ना भाई, तो मुझे